to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to dive into the Deandre Baker case. There was more news on it late last night while I was streaming, and I told everybody I'd definitely give my opinion on what was said regarding Baker and what his lawyer had to say in, response to the report that came out from the Daily News that was written by Pat Leonard, which, was incriminating evidence. Now, it is just a story, but, obviously you got it from somewhere, and the report that came out was pretty damning evidence if it is true. Supposedly there were phone conversations that they had on record, text messages via Instagram that Dunbar and Deandre Baker may have paid off the witnesses to recant their statements. I'll get into some of the quotes of what Patel, the lawyer for Deandre Baker, had to say. Along with him, Grieco, who is the lawyer for Dunbar, also said some things as well. I'm also going to talk about the sad reality that is possible this year that is kind of like the elephant in the room that I've tried to avoid talking about. And hopefully we do have a season. And if we do, hopefully it starts on time. And all we've heard is that training camp is supposed to start on July 28th, which at this point in time is only 2 weeks away. So hopefully that is the case, but I'm going to pull up a quote that Diana Rossini tweeted of ESPN. I'm also going to talk about what Nate Solder had to say regarding the New York Giants and whether or not there'll be a season, and if there is, will it start on time? And I think it's a reality that we have to face is at least a possibility and a distinct one at this point. I mean, all you got to do is look at the numbers. It's double what it was when it was at its highest point before we saw this recent surge. And all we can do is hope as sports fans that things get back to normalcy. But like I've expressed this entire time, the most important thing is people's health, right? Whether they're players or whether it's fans that could potentially be going to these games. And I'm sure the NFL is going to side on the era of caution. But we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But I'll give you guys some of the tweets there regarding what Solder and Rossini had to say about it. But we're going to start with the Deandre Baker case and talk about what Patel had to say regarding his client. So here is the first quote I wanted to pull up for you guys. This came out from Pat Leonard late last night, and he said that he had a source in the Giants organization that said that they may very well be cutting Baker very soon. Now, who knows if this is accurate, but I wanted to report on it and wanted to talk about it. Unnamed Giant sources told the Daily News on Friday night that they would not expect corner Deandre Baker to remain on the team much longer. Now, who's that source? Who knows? Who's leaking that information? The source said this in direct response to the news exclusive report of a search warrant in the case against Baker and Seahawks cornerback Quinton Dunbar that provided ample evidence allegedly showing a payoff cover-up at the office of Dunbar's attorney, Michael Grieco. And what I'll say to that is if this is accurate and if this is true, and maybe the New York Giants have some inside information with this since it's come out, who knows? We don't know what they know at this point in time. But if it's true, yes, of course, he's going to be going to jail. But here's what I'll say. If the New York Giants are not 100% sure that he is guilty in this case, I think it would be foolish to cut him. One, you're going to be hurting the salary cap. And two, it will not be a good look on the organization if they were to cut Deandre Baker and then, it's deemed that he's innocent a month later. So I think the New York Giants have to remain patient and wait to see this all play out. If they were to cut him, I would think it would mean that they receive word that it looks as if he is going to be ruled guilty. But we'll have to wait and see, and I think the New York Giants have to do the same thing. Basically, what he came out and said, I'm going to pull this up here, but at least from the way I gathered it, Patel, the lawyer for Deandre Baker, has basically come out and said that they were kind of trying to play the witnesses, and this whole time Baker was the victim of people trying to blackmail him, and they were playing along with it to try to draw them in and prove that to be the case. That seems to be the defense of Patel and Deandre Baker at this point in time, but here's the quote. "They just made our case even stronger," Patel told the New York Post after the Daily News report surfaced. "We wanted to flush them out to see what they were trying to do. We didn't go to the meeting. We didn't pay purposely. We were with Deandre telling him, write him, ask him, what does he want? What times does he want to meet? We were the ones who controlled the narrative. Baker had no intention of ever going. He was just trying to solicit the information of the blackmail from Coach. Coach, of course, I can't remember the guy's name, but the boyhood friend of Deandre Baker." And maybe that's true. Like I said, we're going to have to wait and see how it all plays out. In the evidence that came out yesterday, it did not link Deandre Baker to the meeting. If the evidence is true, it did link a meeting at Grieco's office, who is the lawyer of Dunbar, in which money supposedly was handed out in total of $55,000 between 4 alleged witnesses. And supposedly it was on camera. There was money in the elevator, and there was a conversation between Deandre Baker, and the coach, which is what they're calling him here in this quote. But according to Deandre Baker's lawyer, it was set up to try to prove his client's innocence. All I can say about this is, if you pitch this script to Hollywood, I don't know if they would accept it as realistic. This case has gotten way out of control with some of the stories that have been coming out, and all I can say is we got to remain patient and wait and see all the facts. Next thing. This is what Nate Solder had to say, and to me, this is pretty common sense stuff. I saw it was grabbing some headlines, and it came out yesterday and reported on it. The thing that was more interesting to me was what Diana Rossini had to say, but this is what Solder had to say. If the NFL doesn't do their part to keep players healthy, there is no football in 2020. It's that simple. And of course, there's no football, but the other thing I'll say is, there is no way the NFL is going to be able to guarantee 100% health for the players. It is going to be a risk that they're going to knowingly take if they take the field. The NFL can make it as safe as humanly possible, but I think we all agree by the start of September, which is when the season's supposed to start, which is now 6 weeks away or 7 weeks away, which is supposed to be opening week kickoff, they're not going to have a cure for this. So there is always going to be a risk. Now, you could try to limit that risk by not having fans in the stadiums. You could, do as much as you can to try to keep the players as healthy as you possibly can. But nothing is 100%. You're not going to be able to 100% guarantee the players' safety. Like I said, they could do the best that they possibly can, and they've given the players the option not to play. That has come out. Now, there will be a deadline to that, and we'll have to wait and see all the details on that. The next thing I want to pull up for you was what Rossini had to say. And this had me interested. The NFL had hoped to start training camp on July 28th, but a source I spoke with tonight tells me the league and the players' union have not agreed on dates of reporting for camp or prior dates for testing of COVID-19. So that's all I've heard. You've heard it from several people that the NFL will be starting on July 28th, but at least according to Diana Rossini, who works for ESPN, she has a source from within the league that is telling her that has not been agreed upon between the Players Union and the NFL. There's a number of other things that the league's been working on that I'm going to talk about briefly also. I didn't pull up quotes for it, but it came out today on Twitter, reported by the insiders, that they're talking about the way that they're going to break up the salary cap due to the fact that they're probably going to lose a lot of money this year. The players would have to take a 35% hit from what I read, or they could space it out over a 10-year span, or an 8-year span, I think it was. So that seems to be the way that the players may want to go about doing it, and I'm sure they're going to have to come to a common agreement with that because the owners aren't going to want to swallow all the lost profits if and when they have a season this year. But from what Rossini had to say is, it may not start on July 28th, and that's all I could say. I didn't hear from Ian Rappaport. I didn't hear from anybody like that, but at least it is starting to look like it's a possibility that may now be postponed. Obviously, we've heard about the preseason games. It's been definitively cut down to 2. The Players Association supposedly doesn't want any now at this point in time, but we have heard that training camp is supposed to start on July 28th, and we're going to get the answer very soon. Like I said, it's only about 2 weeks away, so if they don't report on July 28th, I think that's when I'll start to worry about whether or not there'll be a season. And if there will be a season, I'll at least start to think that there's a very good chance and almost certainty that it will not start on time. But we'll wait and see. Baseball's supposed to be starting up very soon. Matter of fact, exhibition games start, I think, on the 18th for the Mets. So sports should be getting back into the fold, but with the increased rate of this virus, that may change some things. As far as Baker goes, like I said, innocent till proven guilty. I'm not going to jump and say that he's definitively guilty. However, the evidence definitely points to the fact that he could be. But maybe Baker's testimony makes sense. Maybe they were blackmailing him to try to get as much money as they possibly could. Regardless, it doesn't seem like this case is going to be settled anytime soon. But maybe it will be. Maybe it won't. And that'll be up for the Giants to decide if it's in the middle of the case of whether or not they want him playing on the football team. Regardless of how you feel on the matter, I think you have to at least admit that Deandre Baker is a distraction to this New York Giants football team at this point in time. It's something that they will have to deal with all year if he remains on the football team, and that is something that the Giants will have to weigh. I mean, because if this case is not settled for the next 4, 5, 6 months, that is something that will definitely be a distraction throughout the remainder of the season. But just want to get a video up talking about my thoughts on the situation and giving you guys some of the information that I saw. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.